Hey future and fellow OTs, my name's Talia and welcome to my channel. Don't forget to check out my new Instagram, it's at endless.education, and if you like this video, consider subscribing down below.
From ABC News Bulletin at 6:55 a.m. today.
Good morning everyone and welcome to this vlog. We'll see how far we get in the week in doing this vlog. My name's Talia, I'm an occupational therapist and I currently work in child and youth mental health. And it is the 17th of March and I thought this might be an interesting week to take you along. So yesterday I had my accrued or rostered day off, which was Monday, and today's Tuesday and I have a full clinical day today. I have a few training days tomorrow, Wednesday and Thursday, and another clinical day on Friday. So this morning we have some professional development within our team. So I'm not sure who's presenting this morning. I know last time it was supposed to be around Circle of Security, which is an attachment-based intervention around parenting, around the parenting-child relationship. I'm not sure what is this week's. So we alternate with team communication meetings, professional development, peer supervision, and then a week off on these Tuesday mornings. So today just happens to be, I think it's professional development. I could totally be wrong. So that's what's up this morning. But beforehand, we have a check-in meeting with all of our team to discuss any particular clients or families coming in today that we need to be aware of, if there's any risk that we need to be aware of to ourselves, to them, any tough situations that might come up. We also discuss any intake appointments that still need to be discussed and reviewed by our psychiatrists. So after that meeting, then I'll have, I think, professional development, and then Then I have a med review. So a med review is when I have an appointment or session with a client or family with a psychiatrist present. And we can have med reviews for a number of different reasons. It might be for diagnostic clarification, it might be for a medication review, there might be other things. So there's a few things going on this appointment this morning. It covers a few different areas. Then I have a few sessions afterwards. I'm trying to do a functional assessment, looking at some money skills as well for one of my older kids. Then I have 2 sessions in the afternoon, which will be some probably safety planning, checking in, seeing how things are going, and working on our goals. So I'll check in with you later in the day. By the way, I would love to be able to bring you guys into sessions and show you my workplace, but as you may or may not know, that's just usually not an option in the majority, if not all, workplaces because of privacy, respect. Not even allowed to film inside the clinic or on the not even allowed to film inside the clinic. So I know how disappointing that can be for some of you not to be able to see the sessions or see the kids I'm working with, but you have to understand it's about privacy, respect, and just confidentiality in general of who I'm working with, what we're doing specifically. So what I talk about will be non-specific, but trying to give you an idea of what it's like for me as the clinician going through my day-to-day. So I hope you stick around. Let's go. Hey guys, it's currently 5:19 and I've just gotten home. So it was a pretty tiring day, I guess, for not even ending up seeing all my scheduled clients. So we made a decision as a team this morning to try and give our clients a call if we were seeing them today or tomorrow or the rest of the week, with the idea of if there's no urgent reason that we need to see them in the clinic today, that it's more preferable to try and do sessions over the phone, with the idea of in the future trying to set up some kind of Skype type software to try and do some more telehealth type sessions. So over the internet through a computer sessions, telehealth, just to reduce the chances of if someone's, say, carrying the virus at the moment, even if they're not showing symptoms, or if they are showing symptoms and come to the clinic, just to reduce the likelihood of further spreading and unnecessary contact, but still obviously remaining in contact and checking in and assessing risk with our clients and their families. So a few of my sessions were able to be done over the phone to check in, as there wasn't a need for them to come into the clinic. Some did need to come into the clinic and were safe to come in due to giving them a call beforehand and using screening questions just to check that they're going okay at the moment. So I had some med reviews, was able to do some family work today in a family session, which was working on communication and understanding or mentalization between a parent and a child. What other sessions? So I think those were the main sessions I did today, and then over the phone checking in with families and kids on how they've been going, how their mood's been, any risk screening questions, checking in on any if there's any suicidal ideation, any incidents of deliberate self-harm that we need to talk through and safety plan for. So making sure they have strategies, remind them of the strategies, their warning signs, people they can reach out to, the steps their parents need to take to make sure their environment's safe, so removing things that they might use to harm themselves. So there's a whole process when it comes to safety planning. So making sure we go through those things if necessary during those phone calls. And that was basically my day, writing letters, doing reports in between all that, writing notes. So after calling everyone, after calling someone, after having a session, we need to be documenting these things. So keeping up with notes can be something that's quite difficult in this type of position anyway, because there can be phone calls coming from everywhere. We're case managers, so there's a lot of liaison with different organizations and schools, so there can be a lot of back and forth with emailing and phone calls, so making sure those things are documented on our database. And so keeping up with notes can be something that's difficult for clinicians, depending on not just the number of kids they're working with, so that's what we call a caseload, the amount of clients that you're seeing, that you're the primary person giving treatment for or seeing, so your caseload. But also you can have 10 kids compared to someone who has 17, but have a lot more case management to do. So it really depends on the clients individually, not just the number. Obviously the number does inherently increase the workload, but sometimes you can have different clients that require more assertive case management and follow-up depending on their situation. So as far as I know, my training is going ahead tomorrow. I think tomorrow is on the mental state examination, MSE, something we have to be able to do in our sessions. Every session, it's a bit more difficult to do over the phone, but being able to look at someone's affect, so kind of their emotion expression on their face, checking in on what their mood is, so that's something they report themselves, so how are you feeling? And something we might comment on is if affect, what we see, and their mood, what they report, are congruent. Do they match? If someone says they're doing really good, they're feeling really happy, but they're kind of really flat and kind of the saddest person you've ever seen, we would say that's incongruent, they're not matching. There's also other things that are part of the MSE, like what they're wearing, what their risk level is, how their thinking is going, what thought content, so what they're actually thinking, if there's any disturbances such as delusions or perceptual disturbances like hallucinations. So there's a lot of different parts to an MSE, and so tomorrow's training So tomorrow's training is going through that, and then the next day is on risk assessment, I believe. So back home now, pretty exhausted. I'm going to keep my distance from the gym for a little while at the moment, just to reduce the likelihood of me picking up anything. So probably going to take it easy, start cooking some dinner. Don't know which recipe I'm going to pick tonight. I've been really liking HelloFresh. I know I heard about HelloFresh from so many people. This isn't sponsored or anything by them, but I've actually been really liking it. It's taken that kind of thinking, kind of needing to plan ahead on the week, that kind of needing to plan ahead for the week, taken some of that mental energy away from me. I can just look at the pictures and pick which ones I want. I don't have to go through the supermarket and find every ingredient. It's cut down on my time going there, just pick up fruit and milk and things like that. So I've been really liking it, and yeah. Anyway, I'll talk to you soon. Hope you had a good day. Hey guys, so it's Wednesday afternoon and no. Hey guys, so it's Thursday afternoon and I've just come back from my second day of training. So today's training was on risk assessment and management, and yesterday's training, like I said, was on the mental state examination process. So I think in comparison, if I had to pick a favorite or more enjoyable topic to learn about, it's definitely the mental state examination, but both are very important aspects of my role and anyone's role in mental health. So I thought I'd talk a little bit about each of the topics and a few things that we get taught, and so maybe some new things or things I already knew but kind of reinforced through these courses. Obviously I can't teach you everything because clearly there's enough information to fill a full day of training, and then obviously there's a lot more information than what can just be fit into one day. So not going to be able to give you everything. So I'll just try and give you a few bits and pieces of each topic. So the mental state examination. So for our training, I actually really like the courses done by Queensland Centre of Mental Health Learning. You get these like big participant workbooks that have, you know, slides or the notes in that you get to take away. So, which are really helpful after the courses to revise your memory, or if someone else is unable to go to the course, they can flip through it as well. So what we can actually get from a mental state examination is a snapshot of a person's mental state at a point in time, and then this can then be used as a benchmark if it's the first time we're meeting them, or as a baseline as well to compare now, the past, and in the future as well when we're working with them to notice any improvements or if there's deteriorations in their mental state. So that's quite helpful when we're looking at the effectiveness of different treatments or interventions with a particular client. As we know, each person can respond a little bit differently to different types of treatments and interventions. So it's helpful to monitor that individual's improvement or sustained or deteriorated mental state as a way of looking at the current treating plan and the goals, and if they're being met or if there needs to be any changes and reflections upon the treatment plan itself. So the different areas of mental state examination are appearance and behavior, mood, affect, speech, thought content, thought form and flow, perception, cognition, judgment, insight. Just trying to think if I've forgotten any. So it was interesting, at the start of the course we went around and we were all child and youth mental health clinicians, just in different settings, whether it's in an inpatient setting, meaning you work in a unit in the hospital, so probably one of the most acute settings, or whether you're an emergency acute response clinician who goes and sees people who present to emergency, or if you work in a community team like myself, or if you work in a specialist community team with a specific child and youth population, or if you work in a forensic child and youth mental health setting. There was a bunch of us from all of these different types of settings. So we went around the room and talked about what different parts of the MSc do we feel like we might need some more help or support in, so it could be a bit more of a focus of the training. And it was interesting, the majority of us actually pointed out judgment and insight were areas we weren't as confident with as it pertained to working with a child and youth population, because judgment and insight is also dependent on your age, your developmental stage. So we don't expect, say, a 10-year-old to have the same level of judgment as an adult. So trying to think about developmentally, how do we assess judgment and insight? What's appropriate for, say, a 5-year-old to know, a 10-year-old to know, a 15-year-old to know, an 18-year-old to know and understand about their illness or condition or difficulties. So that's related to insight, your knowledge and understanding of how your condition or difficulties impact you and what difficulties or conditions you actually have. And then judgment, your ability to assess a situation and act appropriately. What's appropriate or good judgment is going to differ between an adult and a kid, as I'm saying. So I'll quickly run through a few of these MSC things, but I'm sure there's lots of videos on the internet already, or if you're wanting me to make a more in-depth mental state examination type video, I can for sure do that. So briefly, appearance and behavior is about really the appearance of someone, so clothes, any facial features that are distinguishable, any scars, bruises, significant markings, tattoos, what type of hair they have, their clothes, also things like hygiene, if they seem a bit unkept or disheveled. This can tell you a little bit about their mental state as well. So thinking now more about behavior, you can think about eye contact, if they're fidgety or restless, if they're really kind of still and they're not moving, if they're slouched, if they're being cooperative and polite, or if they're a bit maybe guarded towards the clinician who's working with them or interviewing them. So there's a lot of little things that can be just within appearance and behavior. Next we have speech. So within speech there's a few things we're looking at, which include rate, the rate of speech. If you're talking really, really fast, so if you're talking really, really slowly. We're also looking at tone of voice. So that means, to me, that means intonation. So intonation, intonation. So going up and down, the changing in pitch. So you might notice someone has more monotone voice and doesn't really change pitch at all. They stay on the same pitch throughout a conversation and they don't really move. I think I still had a little bit of jumping up and down. So if you don't normally do that, it's hard to sometimes do. And then also volume. So if they're speaking really, really quietly, or they're speaking really, really loudly, I probably don't need to demonstrate those things for you, but those are some of the things that we can notice. Next is mood and affect. So the difference between these two is that mood is what's reported by the client or the patient / consumer. What is their self-described internal state. So I'm feeling quite tired right now. I'm feeling okay, not super happy, not super sad or anything. So I'm feeling all right. But my affect is what's observable to other people. And if I looked in a mirror, what's observable on my face. So if I'm right now, I'd like to say I have, quite a bright, happy sort of affect, but I might actually be talking about something really sad. And so my expression, my affect, doesn't match the content of what I'm talking about. That would be incongruent. But also if I'm looking really happy and I say I'm feeling quite low and quite depressed or really angry, so kind of the opposite or something quite different to what you see on my face, that's what we're talking about when we say incongruent. With the mood, so what's reported by the person, and the affect, what we can observe and see, don't match up, that's incongruency. So that's something we'd comment on as well. Next is perception, and that has to do with hallucinations or illusions that the person might be experiencing. So with hallucinations, these can cover all the different senses, so they don't have to be just auditory, so hearing, for example, voices or noises. They can be tactile, like feeling something underneath your skin. Some people might be like, I can feel bugs underneath my skin, I can feel a chip in my head, I can feel something, so tactile. They can be gustatory, so taste, olfactory, smelling things. So if you think about your senses, there's a possibility that someone's can have a hallucination for each of the different senses. Next is thought, form, or flow. So some things to consider in this category is whether the person's thinking appears to be logical, easy to follow, sequential, or if it's kind of jumping all over the place, if it's got a lot of tangents that don't really seem to connect, if even within one sentence they're jumping all over the place. So someone might have racing thoughts when they're having a lot of thoughts that are moving quite quickly in their mind, And that can become more apparent where they might acknowledge it, saying, I've just got a lot of thoughts and they're going really quick and I can't keep up. Or you might even notice it with how they're speaking and they've just got so much to say and so many ideas. That might indicate to you that, you know, does it feel like in your mind that your thoughts are racing? There's just so much going on in your mind. So there's lots of different terms you might hear in this category of thought form and flow. You might hear things like derailment, flight of ideas, loosening of associations, tangentiality, using tangents, lots of tangents, thought blocking, poverty of thought, where there's this almost absence of thought, and circumstantiality. So there's a lot of terms there, so I'll just pick one and I'll read it from the book so I'm not giving you the wrong information. So I'll just do ones because there's lots to do. So loosening of associations. Loose associations exemplify more severe derailment in which the flow of ideas are no longer comprehensible to the listener because the person's thoughts seem to have no logical relation to one another. Often the person will be unaware of this occurring. This is an example. I understand why I'm here today. I have a doctor I see regularly. Exercise helps you lose weight. My fridge is white, not black. The moon is full and round. Hexagons have 6 sides. So if you sat there and heard me say that, you'd probably sit back and go, what? So that's an example of loosening of associations where the flow of ideas are no longer comprehensible. Good morning, everyone. It is Friday. It's Friday, apparently. My arms are very excited. It is Friday, and I'm sorry I was interrupted yesterday during my summary of the trainings I went to, so I'm planning to continue that this afternoon, but I thought I'd just let you know as I'm continuing to get ready. So sorry if you don't like watching someone get ready and listen. But so today I'm back at the clinic and I have an intake assessment this morning. So intake assessment, I think I've explained it maybe a few times before, but what I mean by that is this is the first time a client or a family, so child or youth and their family, has attended our service, or they're currently not working with us, so they might have attended in the past and then been discharged and they might be coming back. So this is a lot of the time the first time a family is attending our service, so it's like a first appointment meeting. We're kind of assessing to figure out what's going on at the moment, what's brought you here. So we get referrals from GPs, so general practitioners, guidance officers at schools, from the emergency department in the hospital, and sometimes some other places. So we receive that referral, we triage it with a senior member of our team, meaning we work out the priority of the referral. So we look at the risk level, which can mean a few things, and I think I'll talk about what I mean by risk when I talk about my training a bit later in the video. And we look at a number of things to work out how soon they need to be seen, because unfortunately we're not able to see every single referral the next day or the next week. So we have to kind of spread them out and think about who's able to wait a couple of weeks, who needs to be seen next week, so who's a priority in terms of their risk usually. So it gets triaged and then it gets allocated and booked in with a particular clinician. Yeah, so during this appointment we talk to the family and we talk to the actual teen or child about what's going on at the moment, what's brought you here, what's been helping, what's not been helping. We go through different neuro-veg aspects like sleep, diet, what sort of stresses are currently in their lives, what's the home like, are they going to school, how are their grades, how are their relationships with their peers, any substance use, just a bunch of things to get a good idea of what's happening right now. And then we go away and talk with our team. We also ask them what they think might be most helpful, or if they came to a service like ours or someone else in the community, what they'd want to work on. We then go away and talk with our team about whether we feel we're the best service to work with them, and our kind of case manager service of care model, like if we fit the needs of the family at the moment, or if there's another service that's maybe more assertive, has in-home support, or if they haven't tried private psychology intervention and we think they might actually do well with that, we might be recommending that. So after this intake appointment, we feed back to the family and have a discussion about, as a multidisciplinary team, so my team, what we think might suit what you're saying you need and what you came to the appointment with, what your top problems were. So I have one of those appointments this morning, so as a result they can continue to come to our service, or we might recommend they try other services first, and if continue to deteriorate or they give it a good go and things don't shift, then they're always able to be re-referred to us. And then later today I have a school visit for one of my current clients, which I'm kind of excited about. I don't think I've done a school visit since being in this position. And I think as OTs we come in with a different lens, a valuable lens of being able to look at not only the student and their capabilities, their strengths and areas they can improve on, as well as being able to analyze the occupation, task analysis, look at where there's breakdowns in performance, look at how we can be grading up, grading down, changing the task itself, and then also looking at the environment, which doesn't just mean the physical environment, which could mean like the type of seating, the type of lining, positioning in the classroom, etc. But it can also mean the social environment. Are we sitting next to certain people? What type of support are we getting from teacher aides, teachers? What's working, what's not working, what else can be introduced? Also like other things in the environment like visual supports, etc. So there's a lot we can see in doing class observation and then feedbacking this to the teachers and working collaboratively around what are you realistically able to implement. I could give you this massive list of all these ideas that could be like work really well for this kid, but what are you able to implement, or what do you not feel confident implementing and working with them. So excited to see how that goes. And then I think I have 1 hour of admin, which is not a lot. And then I think I have operational supervision this afternoon if everybody is in, with my team leader, which is a bit different than clinical supervision, which is a bit different to clinical supervision. We might get asked how many people on our caseload at the moment, how are we traveling with that, is there anything else they can help us with. Sometimes I might, if I'm looking to book and leave, I might use that time as well to check our big calendar, which has everyone's leave on it, to see if there'd be enough people still around if I went on leave for 2 days. Those sorts of things. And then it's the weekend and I'm excited for a bit of a sleep. Hey Google, play music.
Music on Spotify. Here you go.
Hey guys, and welcome back. Just gotten home from work. It's definitely been a tiring day, so I thought I'd quickly walk you through how my day turned out and then jump back into talking about the training I started talking about yesterday. So this morning I had that intake appointment, and then I had a school visit, and then this afternoon I had some admin time, and my operational supervision was cancelled due to my team leader being away today. So today I experienced something that can come up from time to time, where when meeting a young person, they can disclose information around how they've been feeling, so mood, if they've experienced any recent trauma or past trauma, as well as if they've experienced suicidal ideation or attempts, or if they engage in self-harm. And for some of the people we meet, we might be the first person or one of very few that they have disclosed or shared this information with. And that can make it a little difficult if they haven't shared this information with their family, in particular the people that might come with them to this appointment. This can actually make it a little bit tricky when risk issues are identified, where we need to do safety planning with the family in the room and with the understanding of the parents or carers or whoever the adults are who live with the child or the teenager. It can be a really difficult situation where the child or the teen doesn't want to disclose this information for a number of reasons: fear of how the family member might react or the carer might react. They might not take it seriously, they might make fun of them, not believe them. So it can be really tough broaching that subject of, you've disclosed some information to me that's making me concerned for your safety going home and leaving this appointment today. I'm going to need to be doing some safety planning with yourself and including your family, and being able to kind of walk that fine line of what's the information the family needs to know. They don't usually need to know all the nitty-gritty details of everything that's happened or exactly what your thoughts are, but they need to know enough information to be able to take it seriously, and then know the importance of putting in place safety measures such as reducing access to things that someone could use to harm themselves. So being able to work together with the young person and figure out what might we share with your carer or your family member, what are you okay sharing with them or for me to share with them, or what needs to be shared with them to maintain your safety. So coming up with a safety plan with the young person, if that's just with them at first and then sharing it with the family, or having a discussion with everyone in the room and together making a safety plan. It can be really helpful to include in a safety plan what's really helpful when I'm kind of in crisis mode for other people to do, and what's not helpful when I'm in crisis mode and for other people to do. Whether that's, I don't want someone asking me a million questions when I'm feeling really low, really bad, in the black zone, in crisis mode, whatever you want to call that emotional zone. But I just want people to, sit down next to me, do something alongside me, like suggest we watch a movie, so it doesn't involve lots of talking, but it means that someone's there with me and just being with me during those times. So having a discussion with them, with their family members as well, of what's going to be helpful and what's just not going to be helpful. So that was a tough situation I've been in today, and I've been in before, and I'm sure I'll be in more in the future, with really walking that line of respecting the client or the young person's confidentiality, but also managing risk and safety. Then I had my school visit, which was very interesting. It's always such a pleasure, or maybe pleasure, I don't know, pleasure is the right word. It's always so interesting seeing young people in different environments outside the clinics or wherever you usually have your sessions with them. So I was able to see this young person in their classroom environment, and it was really interesting to see how they went, and it was quite impressive. And what we usually hear is, oh, they're not normally that good, or they don't normally follow instructions or sit still that much. That was amazing to me, speaking as the teacher. So it's always interesting, and sometimes, well, I think all the time, you need to be aware that if a teacher knows you're coming to observe a class, they may consciously or unconsciously be changing their behavior as well. For example, giving them more one-on-one attention than they usually do, which might then impact the student's behavior, and then you're not really seeing a true picture of what they're like in the classroom and what is a realistic amount of support and attention that can be given to that student on a daily basis. But it was really interesting to be able to talk to different staff members, get their different experiences and observations, make our own observations, and really have a collaborative discussion around, this is what we know, this is kind of our formulation of this young person, this is what you know, I wonder if this is related to this. And just that sharing of information is really beneficial. So going away from this, I went with another mental health clinician, as I work as a supporting clinician for this case, and they have a principal service provider, so their case manager, so I went with her. So we're going to go away and have a think about what we saw and reflect on what strategies and additional resources we may be able to give the classroom teacher and relevant staff members to continue to support this young person within the classroom environment. And then we got back to work around, I'm not sure, 2:30ish, 2 or 3, no, maybe 3, around 2:33, and I was very, very exhausted. Not sure I was too productive after that point, but just going through resources and trying to session plan for the next week, reading through some DBT worksheets that are around mindfulness and some distress tolerance skills that I think I'll be trying to implement in some sessions next week, and just trying to get all those things all printed out and ready. So some kind of mindless work instead of too much intellectual work this afternoon, because just very exhausted after those 2 sessions and very draining. So now I'm very glad it's the weekend. So I think when I was discussing the mental state examination with you guys yesterday and I got a bit interrupted, I think I was talking about thought form or flow. And then so if we move on, there's thought content, there's judgment, insight, cognition. So there's a lot of different things that are within all those categories as well. So I won't take up the whole video in talking about those, but I'll talk a little bit about thought content. So the way we document or identify thought content is through the main themes that are identified in discussions, whether they be delusions, any preoccupations, any obsessions, any phobias, any compulsions or phobias. Now it's very common for me when writing MSCs, pretty common for me with the population I'm working at the moment to be documenting there's no distorted or disturbed thought content present or observed. And within delusions, there's different types of delusions, including paranoid, persecutory, grandiose, ideas of reference, nihilistic, and something else you might hear is passivity phenomena. So there's a lot of terminology you need to wrap your head around when you're learning about mental state examinations. And then when it comes to risk assessment and management, I'll just overview the 6 domains of risk that we typically consider when doing risk assessments and management. So these include suicide risk, deliberate self-harm risk, vulnerability risk, which can include physical, financial, sexual vulnerability, emotional, self-neglect, vulnerability, risk of, say, homelessness, reduced decision-making capacity. There's a lot of different vulnerabilities that can come into play that we can be looking for and assessing. There's also risk of aggression/violence, as well as child safety risk, and also absent without approval, which is more typical when someone is being treated under the Mental Health Act. But we're also taught to consider the likelihood of disengagement from services, to also consider within this category of absent without approval. Okie dokie, that's enough work talk for 1 week. I am off to, I don't even know, off to watch some trashy TV and sit back, and drinking water is not super exciting. That's probably what I'm going to end up doing, and having a break. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it, and if you did, chuck us a like down below and consider subscribing, and consider following my new Instagram. It's at endless.education, and any questions, anything you want to let me know, leave it in the comments below and I'll get back to you. Alright guys, I'll see you in the next one. Bye.